how did I become an English teacher? Well, it was not a life goal from the beginning. The first thing that I wanted to do was study philosophy. So when I went to undergraduate at St. Vincent, I studied philosophy, really enjoyed it, and after I graduated, did some other jobs as part of my journey towards being an English teacher. So let me see. In high school, my side gig was I was a stand-up comedian, wrote my own materials and did parties. It was a blast. Once I graduated from college, I've been the manager of a coffee shop. I have been a bike messenger. I have been a lumberman and worked in a sawmill. And I've been a banker, if you can believe that or not. And I have also worked in student loan consolidation as a summer gig as well. So there's lots of different career paths that one can do. So I decided that teaching sounded like a really rewarding career because related to philosophy was English. So I went back to college, got an English degree, and followed that up with a teaching degree.
I think the hardest thing is that, for me, is that I was a very curious teen, wanted to know about everything, wanted to try everything. And when I got to college, the majors that I was interested in were in the humanities and social sciences. I finally decided on English because I knew I loved to read. I knew I wanted to try being a college professor, and that school had always been important to me. And so literature was the way I kind of connected with the world. And so I decided to be an English major. And I also had an interest in African American life and culture, so I became an English and African American studies minor. Went to law school because I was interested in American culture and American law. I left, graduated from law school, decided once I started working as a lawyer that it was still interesting but not enough to keep me for the rest of my life working in that profession. But I did take another job in affirmative action, trying to get back to the school environment rather than working in the courts. Use my law degree and my experience with that. I could use some of my own life experience as a Black student in predominantly white schools and work from that. But I also had access to further education for free. I ended up getting a PhD in English and American Studies, which was perfect for me. I started in a job after that as a professor, got a master's in spiritual direction and pastoral care, and now I actually get to use that. And this is what I should have been doing all along. But the road has been interesting. I've learned how to study, learned how to read, learned what the law is about, and actually get to use it quite a bit in my life now.
An adult woman in the United States of America, Catholic all-girls school teacher, loved teacher, respected teacher. Well, what did I do for that? I left my home country as a political refugee. My family, my mom, my dad, my grandmother, and my 6-year-old daughter, we uprooted our family and we left the only place we knew as a home to travel through 2 different countries, Austria and Italy, to fly 8 hours on a Boeing to the New World, United States of America, land of opportunities, freedom of religion, freedom of choices. And this was what I wanted for my daughter and myself. So, am I where I want to be? Yes, I am. Do I belong? I hope so, because this is what I want. I want to belong. This year it will be 30 years. In 1 month, actually, in February 7th, it will be 30 years of my family coming to the United States of America. And what is behind? Hundreds and hundreds of Catholic girls who I taught, hundreds and hundreds of parents who liked me and I loved them. Thousands of lessons and many, many stories. I'm famous for telling the stories. I don't know why. Maybe because I still struggle with English, and for me to be straight to the point is kind of difficult. The Sister Joanne Clifford told me, Mila, it's okay to stop and to tell your story. So I'm sharing my stories with my girls, and I don't regret of living my country. I'm where I am because I wanted to be here.
When I first went to college, I was studying computer science because that's what I thought I wanted my focus to be. And after the first year of college, I really enjoyed computer science, but I realized that that was not what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And it wasn't until I graduated college that I realized I wanted to teach theology. And I think in some ways I could look at my first year of college as with like a regretful lens of I wish I hadn't spent that time studying this topic that I'm not going to apply for the rest of my life. But on the other hand, I think it was sort of the culmination of all the classes I took in college, whether they had to do with theology or not, that sort of built the foundation for the way I teach my classes. So I think the biggest piece of advice I would give to someone heading to college is just don't set your mind on one thing too early, because you never really know where your life is headed, and it's all the little experiences you have throughout that time that make you who you're going to end up to be.
When I graduated from college, I had an English degree, and my first job was at Automatic Data Processing Company, processing payrolls. The second job I had was at Loyola College, processing student loans and going and collecting student loans from all of the people who had borrowed. These were government loans. And and I'd done, so many other things in my career. I had a furniture refinishing business. I did landscape gardening. I had a catering business for a while. But most of the time I spent working in the theater, with the Baltimore Theater Project. And that was the longest position I had because I did have a minor in theater. And finally, someplace in the mid-'80s, I decided, what am I going to do when I grow up? So I got my master's degree in professional writing, and then I decided that teaching might be fun, So teaching is the hardest work I've ever done, but nonetheless, teaching is kind of my home until I was 37 years old. It was, but I found that most of my experience in other areas comes into it anyway, that kind of thing. And what I'm going to do when I grow up, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up. I think life comes at you and you sort of take career paths and non-career paths, and then you find out what you love and what you hate. And I just love teaching. So that's how I ended up here.
In high school, I don't really think I thought about where I wanted to be as an adult, but I was just really more focused about going to college and playing soccer, and maybe that had a little bit of influence on what I wanted to do. And I think in college, early on in college, I thought I maybe wanted to be a professional soccer player. But then I went into a high school in inner city Baltimore, or not a high school, but a middle school, and worked with kids, and I really enjoyed it. And I did that through a program at my college, which let me go and be a mentor and teach and help young kids out who were at risk, and I really liked it. And that's where my path started going into education.
I'm from Argentina. I studied in theology in Argentina for 7 years, right after high school. And then I had a scholarship for Germany to study a year in Germany. And I also did a translation degree in Germany. That's where I met my husband, who's from the United States. He needed to finish his studies, so we came to the United States and we started having a family. And I wanted to be home with my children more, so there was a need for Spanish teachers, and here I am.
Originally, I wanted to be a police officer, so my degree is in criminal justice, and I wanted to work for LAPD. And my path took me off a little bit. I took a year off, went to Europe, came back, got married, and started a family. And after that, I didn't want to work in the criminal justice system anymore. So I got stopped by a principal of my son's school. They asked me to sub, and many years later, here I am.